Hi, the Level 4s. I'm Siakhe Mashabela, a lecturer for Advanced Plant Production, Level 4, in GS College, Bertokop campus. The lesson for today is plant propagation. As we said previously, while we were discussing this topic, this is a continuation of the topic that we started. Now we will be doing asexual plant production. As we know, plant propagation is divided into asexual and sexual, and we did sexual already, which meaning reproduction of plants by seeds. Now we are starting with asexual. The outcomes that must be covered in this section are explain sexual plant propagation methods, explain asexual plant propagation methods, identify suitable rootstock and scion for different fruit trees, describe the characteristics of different rootstock and scion, identify and describe the correct seedling and seeds for production of agronomic crops. Those are the outcomes that the learners should, at the end of the topic, the learners should be able to perform or to comprehend. Now, we will be starting with our topic for today, which is SO2. As I said, we're already done with SO1, and the topic for today will cover SO2, which is asexual plant propagation. But before we continue, I would like us to start with the recap of what we discussed last time. We discussed and said propagation is divided into two sections, which is sexual, meaning propagation of plant by using seed. The other method of propagation is asexual. Asexual means propagation of plant by using the vegetative parts of plant, which is we are going to use those parts of plants that can form roots and leaves and become one plant or become new plant. In continuation, I would like us to start with identifying of the tools that we will be using. Because in propagation, we have got tools that are required or that are important that we need to have for us to perform our propagation successfully. We have got a pruning shear, which looks like this one. It's our pruning shear we are going to use for cutting of our propagation material. We are also having a pruning knife. This knife is going to be used when we are going to open or when we are going to make the cuts for our propagation techniques. We are having a sealant or a wax that we also need to use after we have performed our propagation. Then we are going to use this sealant to seal the wound. In propagation, we are first going to start with identification of tools and materials that we are going to use. We have a pruning shear, which looks like this one. This equipment, we are going to use it to cut the scion and the stalk that we are going to use for our propagation. We've got another equipment, which is a pruning knife that looks like this one. We are going to use this one also to open the cuts where we are going to insert our scion. We are going to use the pruning knife. We have a pruning saw. This is a pruning saw. It's also used to cut the branches or the scion that we are also going to use for our propagation. We have the rooting hormone or the growth hormone. This one is a hormone that facilitates the root development. We are going to use this one. In rooting hormone, we've got the softwood cutting hormone, and we're also having the hardwood cutting hormone. We are also having the semi-softwood cutting hormone. This one is a hardwood, it's used for hardwood cutting. We've got the sealant, which is this one. This is a sealant or the wax. We are going to use this one after joining the scion and the stalk. We are going to use this sealant to close whatever wound that might be left, so that the air that does not penetrate inside the wound or the water does not penetrate, that can cause infection. We are going to use a sealant. Now, we also have the propagation material like the scion and the stalk. In propagation, you need a branch that is less than 2-year-old that you are going to use for your propagation. So we are going to have you're going to have to get a branch where you're going to get either if it's a cutting, you're going to cut the branch of less than 2-year-old. If it's a budding, you're going to cut the bud from an actively growing branch. That is a softwood branch. Then we are going to use the branches for the propagation. Now, as we have identified the tools, now we are going to start with the actual propagation. As I said, propagation is a multiplication of plants. And we are having asexual and sexual propagation methods. The asexual propagation methods is divided into 5 groups, or the 5 techniques. There are 5 techniques that we are going to use for our asexual propagation. The first technique will be cutting. The second technique will be grafting. The third technique will be layering. And the fourth technique will be budding. I'm going to start by describing these techniques. Cutting. Cutting is a method whereby you cut a branch or a half of a stem or a part of a stem. You cut and you put it in a growth medium for it to form roots and new leaves. Then it will grow as one plant. We also have grafting. Grafting is mostly the same as cutting, but with grafting, you cut the branch or the part of a branch. You are going to shape the branch and you are going to insert it into another part of a plant, which we call a rootstock. Then the branch will be a scion. We've got the grafting and we've got the budding. With budding, we are going to use the bud. You take a bud from a plant or from a branch, you are going to insert it into another part of a plant. You make them to unite to form one plant and grow as one plant. That is budding. Layering is a form of a stem propagation also, where you are going to bend or you are going to make the plant to form roots while it is still attached to the mother plant. That is called layering. Now, as we start with our propagation, I would like us to start with cutting. Cutting, as I said, is a method of propagation where you cut a branch or a part of a branch. Cutting is mostly done in spring, early summer, or early fall, or to late fall. Cutting, I've got some methods. We are also going to look at the methods of cutting. What are the methods that you need to undertake to perform cutting? We've got softwood cutting, semi-softwood cutting, as well as hardwood cutting. 3 types of cuttings. The softwood cutting, which is a green tip of the green part of the plant that is actively growing, is most oftenly in the propagation of herbs, vegetables, annual and perennial flowers, as well as many houseplants. In this category or in this technique, what is going to happen is that you are going to look at the actively growing shoot, the one that is actively growing. You cut that portion, and then you are going to plant it so that it forms new roots and new leaves to become one plant. We call it a softwood cutting. Another method of cutting is a semi-softwood cutting. The semi-softwood cutting is taken from the previous season growth. The previous season growth, you are going to cut that portion, and then you are going to plant the portion to form a new plant. We have also the hardwood cutting. The hardwood cutting is normally done in winter and is taken from the previous year's growth. The one that is a little bit dull. You take that part, and then you are going to cut it and plant it to form new roots and the new plants, then new leaves. We also have leaf cutting. Leaf cutting is where you cut the leaf. You just cut the leaf from the plant, and you plant that leaf to form new roots. Normally, in this case, you are going to look at the herbaceous, herbaceous leaves, those ones that are soft, and those are the succulent one. You're going to look at the succulent leaves. Those are the ones that will be able to form roots and new leaves. Then you're going to use them for your leaf cutting. The other method of cutting is a partial cutting. Partial cutting, in this instance, it differs with the leaf cutting in the sense that with the partial cutting, you cut the stem of the leaf. You are going to insert you cut the leaf with the stem. You are going to insert the stem in the growth medium, and the stem of the leaf will form the roots and also the new leaves to become a new plant. That is a partial cutting. Root cutting. The other method of cutting is a root cutting. If you don't want to cut the leaves, or you don't want to cut the branch, you are going to cut the root. Root cutting is also done in those plants that have got the rhizomes. You're going to cut their roots and plant them to become a new plant. Steps. The other thing that you're going to look at are the steps to be followed when preparing a cutting. When you prepare the cutting, there are some certain steps that you need to follow so that your cutting is successful. The first step, you choose a young, strong shoot from the previous season. As I indicated, with cutting or with propagation, you need those plants that have developed but that are less than 2 years old. So we are going to choose a strong shoot. You identify a strong shoot from your plant, the one that they've developed from the previous season. That is the one that you're going to choose for your cutting so that your cutting can be successful. The second step, you cut a shoot below the node or below the bud, just a 30 centimeter shoot. You are required, after selecting your material, you are required to cut just below the bud, 30 centimeter, or we might say, let it at least have 6 nodes, a minimum of 6 nodes or a minimum of 6 buds, because in the bud, that is where the leaves will develop and also the root will develop. So if it has got 6 nodes, you know you're going to bury 3 nodes in the soil, and then you leave the other 3 nodes on top of the soil so that it's going to form the leaves, because the portion that you put in the soil is going to form the roots, and the one that you leave on the soil is going to form the leaves. So at least let it be 30 centimeter, depending on the type of the plant, because some plants have got short internodes, other plants have got long internodes. So the main thing is to have the branch that they've got a minimum of 6 nodes. Prepare a container with the holes at the bottom for each cutting. The step number 3 after cutting your branch, you are going to prepare a container. Get a container. You might not restrict the type of container that you are using. Any container that might not decompose, any container that can be able to form, to not rust, you can use the container. Make a hole at the bottom of the container, and then you can use that container for your cutting. The step number 4, after getting a container, you bury half of the cutting in the soil. Fill the container with the growth medium. Thereafter, then you bury half of your cutting in the container. Step number 5, after burying the half of your cutting in the container, then the following step is to make sure that you irrigate. Immediately after planting, make sure that you irrigate your cutting at least the first 7 days every day. Then thereafter you can determine the condition of your soil or the condition of your growth media. Then you irrigate, because it has to be moist. The main thing is to get it moist, maintain it at the reasonable moisture percentage. Step number 6, then you can plant your cutting a year later. After a year, then when your plant is well developed, then you can transfer it to the permanent place. The next method is grafting. Grafting, as I said, you cut a branch, you take that branch, you shape the branch, and you made it to unite with the other part of the plant, which is called a rootstock. One thing that we are going to start with in this section is going to be the factors. We are first going to look at factors affecting the success of grafting or your budding. In this case, grafting have got the same qualities as a budding. So we are first going to look at the factors that are affecting the success of your grafting. Number 1, time of the year. Time of the year, you need to know when is the best time to perform your grafting. That is the first thing that you should be aware of. Late spring to late summer is desirable for grafting or budding outdoors. If you are grafting outdoor, it is best to start in spring to late summer. Compatibility of stalk and the scion. When you choose your propagation material, you need to make sure that the material that you are choosing is compatible. Those are the material that can join easily. The plants that are from the same family, that are easily compatible, that are sharing some common characteristics. Those are the plants that you can use for your grafting, if you want your grafting to be successful. The temperature, you need at least 4 to 15 degrees Celsius temperature 2 to 3 weeks after grafting. Age of the plant. The age of the plant, the bud stick should at least be 1 year or less. The scion and the rootstock should be at least less than 2 years old. Scion orientation. The grafted union to be successful, the stalk and the scion should be orientated the same way they were normally grown. This is very important, my level 4s. Make sure that you don't change the orientation of your scion. Because I know after taking your scion, you are going to have to prepare your rootstock. Make sure that the way the scion was orientated is going to be orientated the same way, so that when it grows, then it will grow the same way it was growing. That is very, very important to take note. Care of grafted plants. Grafted parts should be protected with wax. As I said, you need to have a wax. You must wax your grafted parts so that they can join properly, so that no infections will attack your material or your propagation material, and also they will join properly. Soil moisture. Adequate moisture is particularly important during and shortly after summer budding. As I said previously, you need to make sure that you maintain an adequate moisture. It must not be too moist, it must not be too wet, because if it's too wet, it might create some diseases, some fungus will be a result. So it has to have just an adequate moisture so that it grow optimal. Because if it's too dry also, it will not grow successfully. So it has to have an adequate moisture. Contact of the scion and the stalk, can also affect the success of your grafting. Clean, smooth cuts on the stalk and the scion are required to promote maximum contact. Make sure that when you make your cut, it has to be clean and it has to be smooth. That is why we are using a knife, and the knife has to be sharp, so that when you make your cut has to be clean and it has to be smooth. Just as clean cut. You must not tear the cambium, because when you tear the cambium, that will be also, you will be creating an entry for the bacteria and also for water to enter into that damaged area to cause some problems or some damages. Methods of grafting and budding. Now we are going to look at methods. The methods, we are going to start with graft as we are discussing grafting. Methods of grafting. Grafting, we have got 3 methods, which is whip and tongue. The other one is tongue grafting, approach grafting. Those are the methods of grafting. We are going to start with whip grafting, which is sometimes called a splice grafting. With whip grafting, what you are doing, if I may just indicate, the whip grafting, you are going to cut your graft, you have to cut your scion. After cutting the scion, you are going to cut in a diagonal. You are going to cut your scion diagonal. After cutting it diagonal, you go to your rootstock. You also cut your rootstock diagonal. At the opposing ends, you cut your rootstock diagonal. After cutting it diagonal, then you are going to join them together. The two parts, you are going to join them together. You join them together. After joining them together, you get a tape, you wrap it. In this case, we are using a plastic. You can also use a plastic, or there is also a tape that you use to wrap your cutting. Then you close with the tape. You close. You close with the tape. After closing with the tape, then you tight it so that it does not get broken or it does not dislocate. Then it should be one piece. Then as it is one piece like this, you are going to leave it for about 1 to 2 weeks. You need to, from time and again, you need to come and check what is the you must check what is happening. And then you must also wax it. As I said, afterwards, you wax it. Then you leave it. That is tongue grafting or whip grafting. With the tongue and whip grafting, you are going to make a tongue. As it's nearly the same as the splice, but in this case, you're going to make a tongue. You're going to make a tongue at the opposing ends again. In the middle of your splice, you make a tongue. In the middle of your splice, at the opposing ends, you make your tongue. And then this tongue is going to lock into this one. It's going to form an interlock. It has to form an interlock. And this one can just join without even rubbing it with the tape. It can just join. That is a whip and a tongue. All right, as we continue, the other method of grafting is side grafting. With side grafting, you are going to cut the branch. You are going to cut the branch. You're going to cut the branch. On the internode, you make a cut. Like you open a cut on the internode, and then your scion, you are going to, as it is cut on, it has to be cut on both sides. Your scion, you cut this side, and also you are going to make another cut at the opposing side. Then, as it has got two cuts, you are going to slide it in here. That is a side grafting. This one is a side grafting. You get a tape, and then you wrap it with the tape so that it can join properly. You wrap it with the tape. You wrap it with the tape, and after wrapping it, you smear the wax, as I said. You smear the wax, and the two parts will join together to form a new plant. As it has formed a new plant, then you can cut the opposing ends of this part. You are going to cut this one as it heals. You are going to cut this one here. So you leave this one to form a new plant. That is side grafting. The other one is approach grafting. With approach grafting, you have got two plants that are growing. Let's say they are in the growth medium. The other one have got roots that are of good quality. The other one have got the scion that is of good quality. You join them together. Where you join them, as they grow together, then you are going to cut their opposing ends as well. Sorry. The one with the poor scion, you are going to cut the scion, and the one with the poor rootstock, you are going to cut the rootstock, and then you leave one plant with a good rootstock and a good scion. The other method of propagation that we are having is budding. Budding has got T-budding, has got patch budding, has got a chip budding. That is the budding method. As I already also indicated about budding, we have got the advantages and the disadvantages of budding and grafting. Advantages of grafting, let's start with the advantages of grafting. It enhances the flavor of the fruits, which make it more desirable to customers. The fruits that are produced through these propagation methods have got improved characteristics, as we said. One of those characteristics is a flavor, will be different to the parent plants. It also increases the total yield and makes more trees resistant to cold condition. Also, it will also improve the yield. The yield, as compared to the parents, the yield will be good. And also some resistant to certain diseases and pests. It makes trees resistant to certain diseases. Some fruits, some citrus scions are difficult to root from cuttings, and this is the easiest way of propagating those plants. Advantages of budding: improves plant characteristics, gene variation, rootstock influence size and vigor of the tree and quality of the fruits also. Rootstock impact disease resistant to scion. Thanks for today. Let's hope you had a wonderful lesson and that will assist you for your exam. Good luck. Thanks.